All right, we're recording. We're on. Small group today. Small is good. Every time is good. So let's get straight into it with Lauren tonight.
Sorry, I'm also my own DJ, so I'm like figuring that out, and then I'll chat to you in a sec.
Got to get the music pumping first.
Love that song.
And then it'll just be like going to something completely chill after.
Yeah, now sleep.
Now breathe.
Oh, we got Ellie. Ellie's in.
Woo. Hey, Ellie.
Hello.
All righty. I will give you the screen as well, Lauren, in case you need it. I don't know if you need it, but here you go. Cool.
Hey, legends. I just wanted to check in with like how people are finding the presentations in general. Like what kind of learners are you both, Lena and Ellie? Do you like having the visual presentation up on the screen, or do you prefer just having like face-to-face?
I like the presentation, but I keep your faces up on the side, so I'm watching.
How about you, Lena?
Oh, I don't mind. I don't know, maybe face to face. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, Ellie, guess I'm preparing something for tomorrow then.
Yeah, because it's that funny thing. Like I find that presenting, it can feel really nice to see someone's full face and just kind of feel like you're talking to them more. But then I do have slides to run through tonight as we talk about the breath and the nervous system, which I'm super excited to share. I did go into a huge rabbit hole and I was like, oh, holy crap, how do I make this super simple? Because it's such a simple thing, right? When we think about the breath, it's like, oh yeah, it's just there. And we take it for granted in so many ways. And when we think about it, it's something that is both voluntary and involuntary. I'll pull up this screen that I have, but I can't guarantee that I'm going to be doing it in order. Does anyone have a breath practice?
I think previously, like after some of the Tony events, more so the priming, I guess, would be like the closest thing to some sort of breath work, aside from just sitting and doing the meditation and visualization, but nothing that's a set breath practice.
Yeah, I'd say the same.
Cool. How about you girls?
I don't, but I should. And I want to, so I'm keen.
Awesome. Lena?
Oh, when I do my facial, I do like, I watch YouTube and follow this lady, and she always does, breathing.
Yeah.
That helps. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's so cool. So like the whole reason that I'd introduced the first session last week when I was talking about yoga and why we move the body is it's not that the breath is separate to the body, which is separate to the mind. It's trying to actually incorporate movements that help us develop a connection with our body, our breath, and our mind. And what I often teach in my yoga classes is that the state of our mind is often reflective of the state of our breath, and vice versa. The state of our breath is often reflective of the state of our mind. So like if you think about a time that you're feeling super excitable or super nervous, like you can probably almost feel that most of your breathing was in the upper part of your lungs and in the chest. And it's like, it's rapid and it's shallow. And then other times when you're feeling super relaxed, whether it's like if you're going to bed or you're just feeling like completely chill and you're like on a hammock looking over the Hawaiian waters, which is a visualization goal of mine. It's like, that's when I feel like I can get into that deep breath where I'm actually allowing the breath to move into my system, to expand in my whole belly, not just my chest, but actually moving the air down all the way to the bottom of the lungs. And I didn't realize all of the incredible effects of why we should be doing this until I started doing my yoga training and teaching. So yeah, and there's so much more in it. Like the more stuff that you learn with different breath techniques, they kind of all come back to the same thing in the end. And I'm not sure if any of you have read the book Breath by James Nestor, but it's absolutely awesome. And he basically goes into explaining his research behind why free divers can hold their breath and like the ability of the body to be able to do that. But where do I start with this? So if I go to the yogic philosophy, it says that our lifespan doesn't depend on the number of days that we live, but on the number of breaths that we take. So it means essentially that the slower that we breathe, the longer that we live. And for all of you girls and you guys here, I know that you love animals. And so if we refer this to the animal kingdom, it's reflective there. So dogs often breathe an average of like 20 to 30 breaths a minute. And they have an average lifespan of around 13 to 15-ish years. Sarah could probably correct me on that. I feel like 15 would be getting towards the end. But then when we think of the tortoise, it's like they live 150 plus years and their breaths per minute is 4. So the whole intention of why I do a breath practice with my practices daily is that it's this intentional slowing down of my breath and restructuring all of the, I guess it's educating my body of how to exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide. So how many of you are familiar with what actually happens when we breathe? Is there any basic fundamental knowledge of like the exchange of oxygen, carbon dioxide, or is it kind of like, not really sure?
From what I know, it's oxygen in, CO2 out.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, trees do the opposite, which is how we have oxygen.
Nice. And trees kind of look like an upside down lung in a way, which is a great analogy, Yosh. Thanks. So what people may often think, this may be you, it may not be you may have more knowledge, and that's totally cool, is that our body is dependent. I guess the stimulus to breathe, we usually would probably think that the stimulus to breathe is because of a lack of oxygen, but it's actually based off our carbon dioxide levels. And I think I really have done these slides in advance, in reverse. So these are probably going to be a little bit confusing. But that is the whole reason that we try to slow the breath down, because when air is coming in, so oxygen's coming into the body, and then as it moves down into the lungs, there needs to be an exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide at the end of there's these little sacs in our lungs called alveoli, and that's where gas exchange occurs. Is this making sense so far? Yeah, I just want to go nice and slow so it's digesting. So when that happens, the carbon dioxide, then moves out of the lungs when we exhale. This is very basic, minimal education. So what's happening if we're getting lots of oxygen in, but we're not breathing out fully, is that there's all of this oxygen coming in, but there's actually no exchange of the oxygen and carbon dioxide. So that's the whole reason of why I like to encourage a little bit of breath holding, so that when we hold the breath in our lungs, like if we just did like a 4-count inhale, held the breath for 4 counts, and we breathed out for 4 counts, for example, is that the oxygen comes in. By holding the breath, it's actually allowing for the oxygen to offload and then the carbon dioxide to exchange, to move out of the body as we exhale. So what happens with a lot of people is that they're not breathing all the way down to their lower lungs, which is where all the blood supply is for this to happen. So we're shallow breathing, or we're talking lots, and we're not even thinking about this magical thing that we take for granted, which is our breath. I just have like so much to say about this. I don't even know how to succinctly say it as such, but I'll see what my slides have to offer, and it might guide me into a little bit more of a structured approach. So like I said earlier, that the link to breath, like the first step is to link our breath to our body and our mind. So I'm not sure if you've even experienced a yoga class where they even guide you in and out of a similar movement to try and match your breath to your body. I know that the way I teach that I do that. So it's called a dynamic movement, where I could be teaching you from here saying, we'll step into warrior one and we'll move into it as we inhale for 5 counts. And then as we exhale for 5 counts, and then we might do that like 5 times. So like a lot of classes might take you from warrior one to some random pose here. And it's like, this is all fun and we're moving around, but we're not actually training our inhale to lengthen as our arms move up, as our rib cage expands. And as we exhale, it's actually soothing the body back down. So like all of this movement that I do in my classes is like training the breath, body, and mind to be at unison with each other. We still following? So the technique that is referred to technically in yoga, it's called pranayama. And it just basically means breath work. It's specific techniques using your breath to get a specific result. So prana being life force, and ayama meaning to stretch or expand. So you can see the definition that I have here on the screen. The breath is symbolic of prana, and pranayama can be understood as methods to extend and expand vital life force energy throughout the deliberate control of the breath. So what I also like to explain, that the word prana here is like the word chi in traditional Chinese medicine, but like basically it's life force or energy, that which is all pervasive really, that's anywhere. So you know, if the word prana sounds a little bit too woo-woo or weird, it's like, it's just another word for something that you would probably relate it to. And what I also love to explain is that a yogi is one who can contain prana within their spine. So actually the more energy that you can contain within your body allows you to be more expansive with your energy. So to give yourself your own example, when you're feeling like you've got really good energy and like you're not feeling burnt out by going to work and you're not feeling annoyed by hanging out with friends because it's taking away from your time, you've more than likely captivated the energy within your own shell. But when we're feeling dispersed, when we're feeling burnt out, it's that we're unable to control where the internal energy is going. So it's just kind of leaking out of us, and we're, you know, like just doing lots of different things. We might be scrolling all through Google. We could be running a million errands, but not really getting anything done, and then get to the end of the day and feel exhausted. And within that process, we're probably not breathing well, almost guaranteed. And so the way to build prana or life force, energy, chi within the body is to start working with our breath and working really, really intentionally. So the techniques aren't difficult, they're not challenging, but you have to put in the effort to make it a voluntary technique, because we just do go throughout life and the breath is there for us. There's kind of no reason for us to, we don't have to be conscious about it if we don't want to be. So that's why I think it's just an absolute non-negotiable in my practice. And it's really cool because we can do it from anywhere. We can do it at work, we can do it in bed, and you don't have to tell anybody that you're doing it. Best part about it, it's free, it's accessible. You're always going to have it until you don't, and that's when you're dead. And yeah, it's just awesome. Like the breath is just endless. I could really, go into so many things about this. And I, as much as I want to talk about the technical side of it as well, when we conclude this presentation, I want to give you an experience of just a short practice, and just you can feel into how like what you take away from it. You might not get anything from it in the moment, but as I always say, it's not about your experience in the practice, it's what you experience as you move forward off your mat and out of the practice. We still all good? Cool. I think it's probably one of my favorite definitions of a yogi, actually. And like, not saying yogi that if you don't do yoga as such that you're not a yogi, but what the like the sages and the seers and all of those people back in the day, it's like containing the energy in the spine. I just think it's like liquid gold in the spine, and it's just so magical. And so in the spine, if we think of it as like this solid thing that's like a gold, it's like a gold strip of energy kind of just sitting in front of the spine. It's not the spine itself, but it's like an energy channel, and wrapping around it are these two channels that, if you know the medical symbol of the caduceus, it's like two snakes wrapping around a pole. And that's essentially the central pole is what I like to describe as prana, your life force, your energy. And the energies going around that are like your masculine and feminine energy. It's also like the sun and the moon. It's your sympathetic, it's your parasympathetic. And we need to be able to have these energies balanced in a way to keep that central prana really enlivened and full, so that you can go to bed and wake up and feel fresh and keep doing life epically and just like living your best life. And that can just be through having a breath practice alone. So I know something that comes up with a lot of my students and clients is that I just don't have time. And that's just not a good enough excuse when you can focus on your breath anywhere. So for me, it really comes down to, okay, if they're saying that to me, maybe I'm not being a better educator to them. So that makes me want to really focus on breath practice and really try to get that point across to you of how critical it is to focus on your breath, whether it's 2 minutes a day, whether it's 5 minutes a day. I guarantee you, once you start doing that, it will become a non-negotiable in your world. And it's super exciting when you get to that point where you're experiencing the benefits enough to make sure that you're fitting in conscious practices within your schedule, within your busy schedule. I know you're all busy, as we all are as humans. We're excitable and we have shit to do, basically. So we need to make sure we're looking after ourselves. I described that little example there. So the way that we really do influence the prana, like I've been saying this whole time, is the way we breathe. So how many of you are aware of what kind of breather are you? Do you know whether you breathe mainly in the chest or the belly, or you just have no idea? Can we get some answers here?
Yeah, so I know that I was always very chest breather. Like I'd always do the whole up down kind of thing, and that's changed a lot, I guess, with your stuff, and also, you know, after UPW and Date with Destiny, once they started really pushing the breast stuff there as well. And I think the conscious effort of me breathing into my tummy more so now, starting the breath in my tummy and doing like the Wim Hof style things, has made me do that moving forward more unconsciously, which is, I guess, good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How about you, Tom? I'm just going down with the people that I can see in order.
Yeah, I'd say I'm not really sure. I would say I'm probably more of a chest breather, but there are times where I'll catch myself actually breathing quite deep. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I did breathe that deep, kind of thing. So I think for me, it almost is determined by the state I'm in. If I'm in a calm, relaxed state, I'll probably naturally breathe a little bit deeper and more towards my tummy. And then if I'm stressed out or just got a lot of shit going on, then I'm going to be breathing sort of higher up in my chest. So for me, I feel like it's very much state and mood dependent.
Nice. How about you, Miss Lena?
I have no idea. I don't know. Never thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe here? I don't know. Sorry.
That's not sorry at all. It's actually really good to know where people are at, because like you're experiencing now, it's like you literally have no idea how you normally breathe. So this is just, again, bringing awareness to your own self. And if maybe the one thing that you take away after today is like, okay, I'm going to actually see whether I breathe through my mouth or my nose more.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How about you, Miss Ellie?
Similar to Tom in how it depends on what situation I'm in. I'm definitely more aware of how I'm breathing, especially being around dogs. Be like, oh, did I even breathe in that moment? So I'm definitely more aware of it, and just making sure I do take a lot of deep breaths and to calm myself. So definitely helps.
Yeah, amazing. Sandy, I know you've got your camera off, but I'll give you a couple of seconds if you feel like you want to add something in here. And if not, we'll jump to Sarah. You can type it in the chat if you're unable to. Oh, you're there. Yay.
Yeah. Feeding my little one. I definitely breathe through my nose, not so much my mouth.
So nice to have you in, Sandy. That's cool. Yeah, nose breather. Got it. And Sarah?
Very, very similar to Ellie in that I was going to touch on, I think working with animals has definitely made me more aware of my breath. I'm by no means a master yogi at this. and I think having you around, and since doing the different events that we have, I've started to become more aware of it. I notice at nighttime, I'm more like to breathe through my nose. I'm not sure if that's just the way that I sleep. But I think working with dogs and being around other owners that quite often are short of breath, or they're holding a lot of tension in the upper body, seeing that makes me more aware. So I'd probably move between nose breathing and chest, belly to chest breathing.
Mm-hmm.
I try to take really deep breaths, but I know sometimes if I'm not paying attention to it, I can, like Josh was saying, you kind of just catch yourself and you're like, oh, wow, I don't think I breathed for like 10 minutes there. Like what just happened? And then also, I think also like loving the ocean too. And like Josh said, the Wim Hof stuff has definitely helped with gaining more control over it, because you can't struggle with not breathing properly. Like you've got to catch on to that and not panic if you're short of breath as well.
Yeah, I love it, girl. That's awesome. I don't know why my voice always goes like croaky when I come on here. It's like it was fine. So what's really interesting with I think I'm not sure if I touched on it before. So when we breathe into our chest, that's where a lot of our sympathetic nervous system receptors are. So it stimulates us to, you know, increase our heart rate, to breathe faster, going into that almost stress response. But the lower part of our lungs, so the lowest part, when we breathe all the way into our belly and kind of allow the air to descend all that way down, that's where our parasympathetic nervous system receptors are. And that's where more blood flow is. Like logically, when we're standing up, it makes more sense, right? That the blood is going to be pooling in the lower part of the abdomen and not just kind of pooling in the upper lobes of the lungs. So that's why I really encourage getting the breath deeper into the lower part of your lungs and your belly. And then if we touch on the nervous system itself, I might have to skip forward here and then I'll come back to nitric oxide. That's a whole other can of worms. Super cool. So the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, it's usually defined as a part of the nervous system that is involuntary. So it's not consciously directed. And this is what breathing comes under that. So like I was saying to you before, the breath can be both involuntary, but we can also manipulate it. And within the autonomic nervous system, it basically breaks down into two systems with a third one that I've added on there, but we won't be touching on that too much. But basically, it's the sympathetic nervous system and it's the parasympathetic nervous system. Fairly confident all of you probably have heard that before, know what it is, but might not know really how we can manipulate it with our breath. So sympathetic being a very primitive nervous system that was developed when they always give that example of like the man running away from the tiger. And that's that, you know, you literally have to run fast to get away from danger and threat. And then there's the parasympathetic nervous system, which has come a bit later, which is, you know, at a time where we're experiencing it in the world. And that's our rest, digest, and receive stage. So what's happening now in life is that so many people are in their sympathetic nervous system. They're operating out of a stress response, but not from a like life or death threat. It's like this undertone of low-grade stress that occurs in their life. And then that's also coming up in their breath as well. So it might just be shallow breathing. It could be a little bit of chest breathing. And so the body's actually getting this mixed message of it needs to fight or flight. So it needs to stay in this heightened position because it's under danger. But it's a little bit disillusioned by what kind of danger it actually is. And so that's why, you know, when you're in those states of, I guess maybe stress or like induced stress, you could be exercising or running. It actually shuts down all your organs. So you won't feel like you need to pee. You won't feel like you need to eat. Your pupils will get bigger because it's trying to open the pupil size so you can get more stimulus coming in, so you can keep your eyes open for more threats. But when we're relaxed and everything's like, you know, you can go to the toilet or you can eat your meal sitting there and you're feeling like your body's actually digesting the food that's coming in. Or you can hear somebody digest the information and go, I know what they said, and not have to read that page 50 times or ask them what their name was again, because you're actually in a state of being able to receive. So with the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system is where I love to bring in this technique of alternate nostril breathing. And this technique where we breathe in the left nostril and out the right, then in the right and out the left, it starts to balance both sides of the brain. But more importantly, it starts to balance those channels that I was telling you about before that flow around our prana, or our spine. So I'm not sure if you guys know either that our left nostril controls or lets us know when we're in our parasympathetic nervous system. And our right nostril lets us know when we're operating from our sympathetic nervous system. So at any given time, our nostril breath changes by itself every 45 to 90 minutes. So just take a moment to sit there and see which nostril feels dominant. You can close your eyes or you can keep them open. And just try to start breathing through your nostrils without trying to change the rhythm or the rate. If you're not quite sure which breath is more dominant, you can put your finger underneath and see if you can feel more air coming out of one. Usually one side of my nostril feels more blocked. So where are we at? Who wants to go first? We'll run through everybody again just to check in with.
I think my right is more powerful at the moment. But then it's weird because like it feels more powerful and I think there's more air, but then it's slightly more blocked at the same time. So but I think my right.
Cool. Do you want to go, Tom?
Yeah, I would say my left side feels more blocked and my right side's probably the more powerful one at the moment.
Yeah. Everyone's nodding. I feel like
Same as
everyone's
Tom.
nodding.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Because we are literally in the opposite of what we should be, right? So my left is dominant, but as a teacher, when I'm running this session, it's actually more effective for me to be in my right side dominant. But when you're a student and you're receiving information, to be in your left nostril dominant is more beneficial for you, right? Because you're able to receive the information. So who's going to run the rest of this session is the question.
Hey, Law, so just to clarify, so parasympathetic, that is where your left nostril should be more dominant, and then sympathetic, is it right? So I think I missed that. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So there's names for those channels, but I won't put them out there to you. If you want to know more about that, just send me a message. I love that stuff. But I think sometimes using too many of the Sanskrit language can get a little, it's just unnecessary really. But if you think of left side as the feminine energy and the moon, the parasympathetic is the same. We think of the right nostril as the masculine energy, the sun, heat. So something that I do if my digestion isn't, if like I haven't been digesting well, or if it's a practice that I like to do of a morning, I like to breathe just in and out through my right nostril. So I block my left nostril with my ring finger and little finger, just very gently. And I breathe in and out through my right side of the nostril. So that builds heat in my body. I could do a breath practice alone and not need to move my body at all to build that heat. But if I'm wanting to calm down before bed, just say, or calm down if I've had a really challenging situation or whatever the case may be for why you want to be more chill, you breathe through your left nostril in and out. But a way to really access this, a place of a state of meditation, ideally we're trying to balance both of the left and the right, so that when we're breathing, both left and right nostril are the same. So there's actually this really cool little technique. I'm going to see how we go with it, because everyone is in a state of being right nostril dominant. let's try this out. So place your hands underneath your armpits and just have a gentle pressure with the thumbs against like where your pecs are, I guess. And then close the eyes down. Don't feel awkward. I've got my eyes closed as well. No one's looking at you. And if you are, shut your eyes. Just feel into your breath again. So mine's still left nostril dominant. If yours is still right, press the thumb that's on the right side of your body just a little bit more, with a little bit more pressure. Pushing with your thumb into the pec with the dominant nostril side. So I know your arms are crossed, but I mean with the thumb directly underneath your right nostril. So it's probably your left hand. And just focus on the breath moving all the way down to the lower lobes of the lungs, with the intention to balance out both right and left nostril breathing. And for more clear instruction, we're breathing in through our nose and out through the nose. So you're allowing the air to move in through the nostrils, go through the sinus passages, move down the airways right to the end of the lungs. Don't focus so much on controlling the breath here in terms of it needing to be a certain rate or rhythm. But let's just focus on applying that gentle pressure with the thumb and balancing out both left and right nostrils. And apply now a gentle pressure with both thumbs, an equal pressure. And see what that feels like. Does it feel like there's more balance between both left and right? Or do you still feel really dominant in the right nostril? And if you're still feeling the dominance in the right nostril, push into the left thumb a little more. And if you're starting to feel a balancing of both left and right, just allow your hands to come down into your lap and you can just sit there, and I'll open my eyes now to see whether anybody is feeling more balanced. It's not a judgment call. Just go another 30 seconds just to give everyone an opportunity to see whether they can balance that out. Righto. Any shares?
I don't know if you have the chat open as well, but Sandra,
No, I don't.
you can open the chat and see.
It's so weird on here. I thought I could do the chat before, but I can't now.
Okay,
Can you let me know?
Sandra just said, I feel like I'm breathing even from both sides now. If I push more, will that open the left side more?
It can push it to the side that you're bringing conscious effort to, but the actual intention of this practice is to balance. So Sandra, if you're wanting to breathe through your left nostril more, I'd actually recommend you just blocking your right nostril ever so gently where the cartilage meets the bone on your right nostril, and breathe in and out through your left nostril. Try it for a couple of minutes, up to 5 minutes, and just try to work with an even breath in and an even breath out. And if you want even more of a parasympathetic effect, we work with exhaling longer than the inhale. Anybody else have any shares?
Yeah, I was a lot more even towards the back end of that as well. I could feel everything evening up, which was pretty cool.
It's awesome, isn't it? So random. It's like, what's even happening?
My right nostril is even more blocked now, so I think I've overdone it.
It's so Josh, just complete opposite. For me, I noticed that before we did that, I started doing breathing through, like blocking one of the nostrils and breathing that way. And I think that balanced it better for me than this exercise. I think I was already balanced at that point. And so when I had my hands there and I was doing the breathing, I felt like I could breathe more clearly through my left nostril, which was interesting.
Amazing. How about you, Ellie and Lena?
I found that really good. Yeah. I've never even thought of evening out your nostril breath. I've just thought in through your nose, out through your nose. So that was really cool. It worked too.
Awesome. I love your setting there, by the way. It looks epic. Like, want to come and camp with you right now. How did you go, Lena? Let's do it.
Oh,
yeah.
It's
Sunday.
more balanced. It's good.
Yay.
Yay.
Awesome.
I was even thinking, Lauren, with when you were talking about the sympathetic and how that's typically masculine, like the masculine is the right side, isn't it? I wonder if there is a link from, like, you know, many years ago, like men were traditionally, I guess, meant to be in that fight or flight for survival. Is that how that started, kind of like how they chose, I guess, the right side to be more masculine than feminine? Do you know about that?
I feel like it's more related to the moon and the sun. But like masculine and feminine energy, I don't see it as like man or woman, but yes, definitely the primitive roles of sympathetic, most certainly. But then I think of a lot of yogi sages that were men and they were very balanced. And so the whole reason that we want to balance both sides of our nostril, or those channels that go around our prana or the pranic spine, is that our nostril breath dictates the hemisphere of our brain that we use. So when both hemispheres of the brain are connecting, then we're able to assimilate information super quickly. We're able to get to that calm point much quicker, and even like establish new neural connections. So I know that I've got a super deviated septum, which is a whole other discussion in itself. And I'd highly recommend getting the book Breath by James Nestor. I've already mentioned that today, but really looking into that, of how the structures of our faces have changed today. If we looked at primitive people back in the day, their skulls were formed much differently. They all had straight teeth from what they were eating. Most of them were breathing properly. But nowadays, our foreheads have changed shape. Our mouths have changed shape. Our mouths are smaller. Our teeth are smaller. Or people are obese and overweight. And this changes how they actually breathe. And that has a whole other myriad of deleterious effects. Like, that's why that we have so many diseases or diseases in the world, and people are trying to come up with like, oh, use this piece of equipment, use this. It's like most things come down to stress. And I think that if we can heal things through breath and sleep, and they put more focus on that, we would have a clearing up of things like COVID, things like cardiovascular disease, things like insulin, diabetes. So something that James Nestor had said, what was it? So I think when here we go. So when we're in a state of sympathetic response or in the sympathetic nervous system, even though we might be feeling relatively chill, right? Like I was saying, it's this low grade stress that your body's going under. That can be inflammation through the food you've been eating, lack of sleep. And Tom's given information on that in the previous summits if you haven't already been here and watching that. But it's not just stuff like that, but it's like toxic relationships or people that you're talking to or crappy jobs that you're in, and all of that. So it's this low grade stress where we're like, oh, I'm basically fine, like I'm pretty healthy, like I eat well most of the time, but your body's undergoing this constant stress. And when we're producing more cortisol in the body, which is a response when we're stressed, it increases the glucose in our bloodstreams, and inhibits dopamine and serotonin, which is the counterbalancing hormones that promote the feelings of calm and well-being. So if we're not actively making an effort to get into our parasympathetic nervous system, if that's not where we naturally kind of reside, then you will get sick at some point. Like you can be pretty resilient for a long time, but if you don't develop a practice, as you age, you will get sick. And I can almost say that super confidently. It's like, I'm not a doctor, I'm not prescribing anything, and I'm also not sending you bad intentions either, touch wood. But we really do need to make an effort of where we're putting our focus, our energy. And if we can focus on our breath alone, if we can focus on getting more sleep, that is going to like heal so many things, or prevent many diseases in the body. And a big one for me is hugely digestion. Like I know that when I'm breathing properly and my body structure is aligned and I'm sleeping properly, like Tom said yesterday, like when you're sleep deprived, you eat so much more. But then if you're eating so much more and your body's not even in a state of being able to receive it, well, of course you're going to continue to gain weight and just not feel good. You're not going to be getting the nutrients of a healthy salad that you might be eating. So one thing that I commonly hear people a little bit disillusioned by is that, but I'm eating healthy things, but I'm eating like a salad, I'm eating all of this stuff, but it's like, but are you in a parasympathetic nervous state to receive that? Or is your body actually extracting the nutrients it needs? Because it's probably not the case. It's probably all of this other lower grade stress going on. So this is why I really hone in, and I don't need to be like, I feel like pretty intense. I feel like I'm coming through the camera, like, get your breath on. And we kind of need to be at that point with it though. Like I'm committed about it, and I want you to be as committed to your health as I am about my health. And like in our seminars, there shouldn't be anyone more committed to our success and our health than we are. Like, I don't want Josh to be more excited about my health than I am. It's like, nah, I'm going to be better. Like, I want to be the one who is in charge of that. Sorry, I felt like I just went on a real big, like, whoa, wisdom speech. So the reason as well of why we breathe through the nose, another really cool point, is that there is these cells in the nasal passage that are important to take nitric oxide down to the lungs. So nitric oxide sounds super scary, actually epic, and it's produced in the body But when we breathe through our mouth, it completely bypasses this labyrinth of sinus passages in our nose. So what actually happens when we breathe in with our nose is that, I'll get back to the slide here so I can flow a bit. Oh, here's my lame puns. So nitric oxide, I see Josh laughing, and this encourages me to be, I hate, makes me want to do more stupid things, and it's like annoying.
You're not you if you don't.
I feel like it reminds me of, what's that guru, like into me, intimacy
the love
into
guru.
me, I see, like that's what it reminds me of.
And like TM on the end of everything, like nitric oxide, TM. Yes, if nobody's seen it, you should get onto it, and this will be funny after it, maybe. So nitric oxide, it's abundant in our nasal passages. And like I say here, when we breathe through our mouth, we miss the opportunity to carry the nitric oxide to the lungs. And probably like, what even is nitric oxide and what does it do and why do I want it in my body? So like you can see over to the right of the screen, nitric oxide is a vasodilator, which means that widens the pipes essentially. So when we widen the pipes in our blood vessels, this does the same thing as when we're relaxed. It allows more blood to flow. It allows the blood pressure to drop, the heart rate to decrease because there's less oxygen demand. And as such, when we're, you know how I said when we breathe in oxygen, we need carbon dioxide in our body to be able to exchange over to then breathe out. That, I feel like that was a terribly worded sentence. Let me start again. When we breathe in oxygen, we need a certain amount of carbon dioxide in our blood to be able to release the oxygen into our system. And when the oxygen is released into the system, then the carbon dioxide is transported back into the lungs and then it leaves the body. And that's essentially the breath out, exhalation. But why I'm emphasizing the importance of nitric oxide and how we can really, hi Greet, and how we can use this to our advantage and why we use nose breathing for that reason is that they all work together. So when we think of what the world is made up of, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide. So why wouldn't we, what's in the universe is in us and what's in us is in the universe. So it's a really cool way of looking at it in a way of like, we are our own little universe and we need to be balancing these processes in our body that's going to be working optimally for us as well. So in terms of being a relaxant, it's essentially, when you think of nitric oxide, I'm pretty sure that's what happens when people take Viagra. So it's just like the widening of the vessel. So you think of it like decreases blood pressure, it increases the ability of oxygenation, which is adding to all of these beautiful benefits of when we do our breath practices, which is super, super exciting. And I don't feel like I had too much more to really cover with you because like I said, it's I think it's more of an experience doing these practices more to see how your body, your mind and your breath become linked, but not just that, it's what comes after those practices. Like, I know that when I'm not doing my practices or if I for some reason miss them, which I don't, like and that's why I don't, is that if I could remember back to a time when I haven't done it, it's like I'm not thinking clearly, I'm not feeling creative, I'm not feeling like I can assimilate information. those moments just before bed or when I wake up in the morning and I sit there and I'm just like, wow, I'm breathing today. One, grateful, hell yeah, life. And then two, it's like, okay, so what is my breath doing? What is my breath showing me today? What my imbalances are, or where I am balanced. So I could sit there over morning this morning and go, okay, feel like I can't concentrate, or I feel like my breath is naturally sitting in my chest space. It's like, that's interesting. Is there something else psychologically going on for me that I'm not able to kind of relax into my belly breathing more? Or did I not sleep properly? Or what did I eat last night? Like, list goes on. So this chance to check in with the breath, I first witness what's going on before I make any changes. I'm like, I need to get a baseline of where I'm at today. And then from there, I then try and shape the breath. So I start very basically, put hand on belly, and it's like, okay, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. And I breathe in and out through my nose. I don't tend to time myself these days. I try to go a little bit more intuitively and have like a gentle music track on like this. If you're liking this kind of music, this is East Forest on Spotify. They're really cool. But I just find that really beautifully gentle in the morning. My teacher actually, he recommends having no music, but yeah, I prefer no music at times, but yeah, for some reason I feel like music has a different kind of physiological effect for me. So see where you sit with that. And then so after shaping the breath, I then manipulate it even further for whatever my goals are for the day. So I think I said last week about the practices that we do needs to shape up with how our day is going to look. And we're needing to do these things in a wise progression. So if I've got a super, super busy day and I wake up and my mind's like, oh my God, I got to do this, I got to do that, or I get to do that, I get to do this. Even if you love doing what you do, I'm probably going to do a really calming practice so that my mind, my breath, and my body are moving into the day with a calm approach, versus if I've woken up and I'm like, how did I get to winter? This is crazy. Not doing anything today. All my clients got cancelled. I'm feeling super depresso. Probably going to do a really enlivening practice, breathing through either my right nostril. There's heaps of other breath techniques, which I would love to talk to you about if you're interested, and reach out and get in contact. But then there's also like the Wim Hof breathing that Josh, Tom, and Sarah do, and Lena and whoever else has done the Tony Robbins event or just know about him in general. So there's different reasons of why we put ourselves under intentional stress, but these intentional stress practices have they have a technique for a specific outcome, as opposed to the end result being disease or more stress or inflammation. So we train our bodies in different ways, and we can actually manipulate it quicker with our breath than we can with our body. So I find that just blew my mind when I started to learn that through my teachings. And quite often now I like don't have an overly long yoga practice. I'm all about efficiency. So I use certain poses to improve my breath function. And then when my breath has gotten to a certain point where I feel like breath and body are moving synchronistically, that's when I stop. I drop into my pranayama exercise. So pranayama, again, meaning breath work. Prana, life force. Ayama, meaning expansion. And then after I've sorted my breath out, that's when I naturally progress into a meditative state. So when both left and right hemisphere are communicating and they're saying, yeah, we're cool, like we got this, that's when you can actually sit there and go, wow, like I can sit in this place of being. And just to reinstate quickly before we wrap up, meditation is a stilling of the mind. It's not getting rid of thoughts. So if you have something that you're wanting to meditate on, come to your meditation practice with a question, with like a topic, and sit with that. And you can sit with that for a minute. You could get lost in it and sit with it for half an hour. You don't have to sit in a cross-legged position. I'm a weird little hippie, and I feel like I just love sitting on the ground. So that's my style. I don't sit here with trying to put my legs everywhere. It's like I naturally sit on the ground quite comfortably cross-legged. But for you, if it's lying down, I know Sarah loves to lie down, or like Josh and Tom probably prefer to be in a comfortable seat. It's wherever you feel like your breath is optimal. So where you feel like your spine is supported, and you feel like you're able to actually get air all the way into your lungs, both upper and lower, and then to be able to expel the air out as well. So it's not having a slumped position. It's not being in a position for your meditation or your breathing where you're like, I'm thinking about how uncomfortable I am, because that immediately takes you out of it. So if your body's not strong enough to have you sitting up, doing your meditation or your breathing, lie down, or find a really comfortable chair where your feet can touch the ground and your lower back is just resting against the chair or the backrest, but you're still supporting yourself. And you'll notice that really changes your breath practice and your pranayama practice if you already have one, or if you're wanting to develop one. So that's really my main points today. I think I feel like I just started.
Lauren, I wondered if there was any, like, for people that maybe are on like public transport or that are busy in their day-to-day lives and want to commit to it and maybe prefer at the start having more a guided approach. Do you recommend any apps or any like downloadable things that they can listen to get the same benefit just at the start?
Great idea, Bean. I love that. Insight Timer, I've heard a lot of great things about. I don't personally use it. I haven't downloaded it because I have my own practice. But someone who I just absolutely love is Elena Brower, and she'll be coming on my podcast soon. And she's just a beautiful soul of a human, and just has. If you look up Awake, let me just quickly search what it is on Spotify. But she has a few spoken meditations.
You can pop that into the Life Summit group after too, if you like, as well.
Yeah. Let me just see.
Well, speaking of the Life Summit group as well, I've posted a few photos in there from this massive big textbook that I have that basically talks about, similar to what Lauren was talking about at the start with the alveoli and the lungs and how gas exchange occurs. So I've put a photo of like systematic gas exchange, which is how CO2 and oxygen are transferred between tissue and the blood, and also one of alveolar gas exchange, which is between the alveoli and the capillaries and things like that. So there's a couple of photos. I would hold it up and show you guys, but this book's about 5 or 6 kilos and it's a bit hard to do that. So the photos are in the Facebook page.
That's awesome, dude. I appreciate that. Yeah, I wanted to go into that tonight, but I was like, oh my God, how far then do I go? Because it just, then I wanted to go into all of the anatomy and the physiology, going into like the structure of what muscles we use in breathing. But again, we'll be putting together packages post Life Summit for those of you who want to know more in detail about things like this. And it's all really synchronistic with each other. So I super appreciate that. And the Elena's one that has spoken word, and it's like a meditation, is like above and beyond, flow state. And Elena Brower is spelt ELENABROWER. But if you just want to reach out to me and you want me to make you a meditation specific for what your outcomes are, get in touch. I love recording. I love putting things together specifically tailored for you. You know, if you're working with a specific intention, or if you're focusing more on developing your willpower, I've got meditations specific to a center in your body. If you're looking more for stillness and calmness and peace of mind, we focus on different parts of the body. So there's like 3 main spots that you can basically meditate on. And it's the third eye, the throat, and the third eye, the heart, and the navel center. So that keeps it really simple. And I know that there's so many, there's so much out there, and we can get lost. And my main intention is that you don't walk away from here feeling overwhelmed. I want you to know that your breath is with you, and whenever you decide to bring conscious effort into it, I'm here. Like, give me a holler, even just like let me know what you're doing. I would love to see what your practice is, and I would love to see what the framework of your life is, and I would be happy to give you feedback on whether that's like a good practice for you, or whether we could maybe try some other things. So I always find that side of problem solving really fun. And you know, I don't ever hear a story and go, oh, they're so bad, they do this. It's like, I have been all over the place at times with practice until I developed a framework. And it's taken me, you know, I think I realized the other day that I have been practicing for 10 years now. And I'm just like, am I even that old to practice? I'm like, wow, it's so amazing to think back of doing that. And you know, it might not have been as consistent then, but I certainly know I was aware of it 10 years ago. So if this is your moment of awareness, like, hell yes, because you think of yourself in like a year and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I did hear about that breathing thing that some weirdo told me, and might get onto that. And then the more times you hear it, it's like, oh, okay, like I'm going to do that. Oh, okay, I'm going to try this little thing. Oh, that really works for me. Oh, I really liked that. And over time, we develop our sense of intuition, and we develop our sense of our own practice. So essentially, it's moving you to a point to feel empowered to go, I don't need Lauren as a teacher. I just needed her to give me some frameworks and tools. So now that I can do it myself and wake up and go, wow, what does my body need today? What is my life doing today? And what message am I needing to put out there? And next week, what we'll go over is the technique of visualization. And what's really cool in that is like the science behind it, as well as the spiritual side, which really is something that I love, being able to blend the two and make it practical, but then also allow you to just get into that state of the spiritual side of faith, I guess, because so many people are like, oh, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in this and that. And it's like, I'm not religious, but I believe in something bigger than myself. I don't believe that I just got here without some magical force. And for the amount of things that have happened in my life, for, you know, means of thinking it or manifesting it, it doesn't feel coincidental. So we'll go into like neuro-linguistic programming and all of that kind of side of things, like where there's that scientific backing behind it. But then it's also like a little process of getting you to dream big, getting you to write down your goals, getting you to visualize what it feels like to, you know, be living your dream life instead of just dreaming mediocre. That's boring. Like if you dream like, oh, okay, like I guess I'll just accept where I am, you're not going to be opening your mind, like your literal neural connections. They're not going to be opening to new opportunities. So why not dream big? Like, let's get pumped, let's get grounded at the same time, and get balanced and invigorated. Like I said, like I feel like I'm all about the paradox, and it's like, how can we be calm, grounded, excitable, passionate, abundant, and have that all as one thing? Why do we have to just be one thing? So yeah, with that, I shall I'll open it up to any feedback, questions, or yeah.
I'll ask a question, Lauren. With the breathing stuff, like I know for a very long time I haven't belly breathed through the nose, and I know that's, you know, important. But even now, standing up or sitting up straight, I find it difficult to breathe lower when I'm in those positions. Is that just because I haven't done it for a long time, or yeah, what do you think about that? And is that normal?
Great question. I think that comes down to, there's a part of that. I also think that if I didn't know you better, I know you're strong, but I would love to know what the strength of your lower back is like.
I'm going to say pretty weak.
Yeah. And so when we think of the part, if I was to sit up here like this, that's super comfortable for me. I feel like my pelvis is in line, my lower back is in line. Because when our lower back is weak, we either really round it like that, and it's like in an arch, or we round like this. And even though you might be trying to sit straight, like your shoulders could be rounding forward, and it's weakening the lower back muscles. So if you're unable to sit up, like I said, Yoshi, to start with your breath practices, something that, you know, is such a beautiful practice, and we can go through it after we jump off here actually, is lie down. I'll see if I can actually just do it now. I'm going to show you guys what I love to do. So lie down. If you have the opportunity to lie down, do it.
I won't be able to hear, so I'm just going to, actually, I'll see if I can do this.
Loving the commitment. So I have a heat bag. I personally love heat bags. If you have a yoga block or anything that's like fairly gentle to pop on your belly, that's really amazing. But also just having nothing on there is fine, and you can place your hands on your belly and just feel the movement. So lying on your back, and then just sort of like, it always feels really good when I come down onto my back. I don't know about you guys, but it kind of feels like everything resets itself, and just, yeah, there's like no holding in the upper body. And that way, when you're not focusing on your physical limitations, you can then move into your breath work. So try now breathing into your belly. I'm just going to sit up just so I can talk to you. And so Josh, I know you've got your mute, you're not muted at the moment. How are you feeling lying on your back there doing it?
Yes, I've always, can you hear me?
Yep.
So I've always found it a lot easier to breathe deep into my belly while lying down.
Yeah. Another great way, so everyone now flip onto your stomach. And this one is the way to develop diaphragmatic breath or lower belly breathing. So you lie on your stomach, you cross your forearms like this, and place your forehead down on the back, on your forearm, sorry. Place your forehead on your forearms while you're lying down. I don't know if you can see me in here. I feel like my camera's not right. Sorry. So like this. And what you can do for this could be your breath practice of a morning. So literally coming to lie down and now focus on breathing all the way into your belly. So you get a bit of a rise. This is so cool. Good on you. I know you want to be lying down on the ground right now, Greet, but doesn't look like you're in a spot to do it. Cool. So everyone lying down on your belly. Now we start to deep breathe right down to the bottom of the lungs. And even just having your head slightly elevated on the back of the forearms helps with getting the breath a little bit lower. It helps to align the head, neck, and spine. And it has this really beautiful, soothing kind of effect. I kind of get the feeling like most people just want to stay here because it always feels really, really good as soon as we allow ourselves to rest, and it takes the pressure off the low back. And it allows us to go a little bit more internal. So even if like you do visualization as well, if you want to incorporate your diaphragmatic breathing with your visualization like this, if you're not feeling like sitting up or lying on your back, this is great. So I think we will wrap it up there, legends. You are more than welcome to continue that practice. I don't feel like don't feel like you need to stay on. If you're feeling a little bit sleepy and chill, that's great. This is where we should be heading for the end of the night. But before we do wrap up, what nostril are you breathing through?
Left.
Nice.
All I have to say is picture it didn't happen, Josh.
Okay.
That's an in-house joke, so no one else will get that, but aside from our core group.
Awesome.
How about the rest of you? What nostril are you breathing through? Are you feeling balanced, or like it doesn't matter if it's the right, you don't have to make it up.
Balanced.
Balance. Cool.
Balanced.
Yay. Awesome. Such a cool team tonight. Loved it. I know I certainly love my randomness, but I apologize if it felt a little bit all over the place. I just tend, like, you know, it's that whole thing of what I was saying, when the energy isn't contained within the body, and it's like I can feel that bit more scattered, but at the same time I feel really good now. So yeah, so if there's any questions or if something wasn't explained overly well, please give me feedback. Please give me questions. I love questions. Also, send me a message if you want a practice specifically designed for you, like I said before. If you've got stuff that you're working on and you want to practice to work conducively with that, I'm all about it. So all my details are up on the screen if you want to find me, or if one of you know whoever and have my personal number, you can grab that too.
And they got you on Facebook, so.
Yeah, perfect.
Cool.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that, Lauren.
No worries. Yay.
Tomorrow night we'll have Sarah.
We do. Woohoo.
Yeah, I think tomorrow I will go over some basic leash and body techniques to kind of better get some control out on the walk. So we spoke a little bit about leadership in terms of relationship, but we might cover just some different things that you can implement on the leash with your dog as well, because I know that's something that I got most votes on in the group. So we might kind of just go with what you guys want to hear more about. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Awesome stuff. Cool. Right, we'll wrap it up there, guys.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks,
Love
Lauren.
Thank you, Lauren. Bye.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Cheers, guys. See yous.